New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Ministers. Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where BRZ and Rev and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And good morning, dear ones. Dr. Robert with you over here.
Reverend LZ right here.
And this is Ministers Talking Shit. That means it's a Friday morning. And we have, we'll raise a mug there. I know you have one of these, Z. But you've got
I do.
You got almost the whole collection, actually. So,
yes.
But all right, folks, it's a Friday morning. Hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Let your friends and family know what we're doing here this morning. We're gonna dig into it. I love how LZ and I get together before the show. Obviously, we do some talking and we do some chatting. And you came into the office this morning, the green room here this morning, and said, "All right, there it is. World War III has begun."
Yes, Elon and Trump are at it in real time. Allegations are flying, accusations are being hammered out, and
threats are being made. The truth is being revealed. I don't know where I heard it yesterday, but I saw something or I heard something, and it says, Elon says Trump is in the Epstein files. And my first thought was, well, no shit, Sherlock. We've known that for a long time.
Yeah. I don't think I don't know who has those files. I don't know if they'll ever get released, but if they do get released, I this would be akin to in my mind, what's happening with Sean Combs right now. Imagine that trial had gone to court like this one is in court right now.
Right.
Mind-boggling it would have been.
Yeah. What we're hearing, what I get, and the things that we're hearing, I think it's strange because I don't see much of the mainstream media really covering what's coming forth in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. And mostly I would have to think because, number one, they don't want to rip apart Hollywood. And it would appear that Puffy's got either had sex with or has pictures of just about everybody in Hollywood, the parade of witnesses against him, and stories story of him dangling a young woman off of a 17th floor balcony or something like that, like the kind of shit that I don't think anybody should be surprised by this kind of stuff. American culture has in many ways glorified and promoted this misogynistic, me above everybody else type of consciousness for a long, long time. And, a kid coming up in the world with the situations and the lack of privilege, let's just say, or the denial of privilege. I'm going to say it that way. And the denial of privilege that he faced as a young man. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting today as we look at the news, right, across the globe, in any slice of news, pop culture, climate, ecology, politics. It does not matter of how you slice that apple, if you will. It's all overly dramatized, self-serving, leaving out tons of pertinent information for people to make important, informed decisions. And it can only lead to something that's just disastrous.
Yeah. Yep. And now with Elon and Trump feuding, right? It gets even crazier. It threatens to hold back funding for Starlink and SpaceX. Elon threatens to hold back to decommission the only way to get food and supplies to the International Space Station, the Dragon capsule, which would leave us with, knocking on Russia's door to get food and supplies up there. It feels, I'm back to my favorite trope lately. It feels like a couple of really immature little kids just titting and tatting and bickering back and forth on the playground. But unfortunately, in this scenario, the end result isn't a bloody nose. It's the economic destruction of planet Earth, or at least the U.S.
Right. And I mean, and when you think about news slices, I mean, you just take education. My heart is warm for education. I've had a fun educational journey. I was a college professor for a while, I was a corporate trainer for a while. Now, as a minister doing training, and I look at all of the back and forth that's going on with Harvard. Anybody with an ounce of intuition and a keen eye had to know that was not going to be the end place, because now the U.S. Department of Education is seeking to revoke Columbia University's accreditation over alleged violations of anti-discrimination laws. Just the beginning. And they had Linda McMahon on Congress floor the other day, and they asked them, which one I thought was good. They asked, if we teach about the Holocaust, is that DEI related? And she said, no. If we teach African American history and this thing, she never really answered the question. It was a yes or no question, and she never answered it. She just said, yeah, well, we should teach all valid history.
Yes, which would imply that Black history is not valid. You bitch. I'll say it. But don't call people.
I didn't want to go there. That's why I stopped short. I didn't want to say that.
I thought their whole idea, see this, and this is the sneaky part, folks. I thought their whole idea was to dismantle the Department of Education, not to turn it into a weapon. And see, and that's the thing. Trump, over time, Trump has repeatedly whined and moaned and groaned and cried that various departments of the government have been weaponized against him. But here he is weaponizing the Department of Education against people that don't agree with him, or people that don't like him, or people that or commute like this. When I saw that on Columbia, and I thought to myself, this is not right. these are schools that are the backbone of America. What did Columbia do? They got the ire of Donald Trump, right?
Mhm.
We're living in a world where it's like, keep your head down, because if you piss off Trump, I don't know if this was a satire or not, but I saw it go through that there was an executive order. You're no longer allowed. It's illegal to call him Taco. So I don't know. Can we use? Did we have to add the word taco to our banned word list?
What we need to add to the banned list is the 47 administration. That needs to be banned because, I mean, I think, Trump was supposed to end the war in Ukraine in one day, 24 hours, 48 hours, or whatever it was.
First day,
we're way, way away from that. And supposedly, I have to say supposedly that supposedly Trump and Putin had a phone conversation recently, and he said Russia would respond to the Ukraine airfield attack, which was a brilliant strategy, by the way. If you're just looking at strategies, loss of life on any side is not something that anyone wants to see. But if you're looking at strategy, it was brilliant. And Putin said, there's no immediate peace in this thing. He was embarrassed by them having the ability to plan this, to have drones come out of open truck tops and destroy almost $1 billion worth of nuclear fitted aircraft. I mean, it's just, which is now going to escalate the thing even further. And they start dropping bombs over there in Ukraine this morning. We were talking about earlier.
Overnight bombing in Kyiv leaves 3 dead. And to me, again, this is part of it. The Ukrainians are targeting infrastructure and military installations, and Russia is targeting suburbs and the cities, not for military might, but for pure shock and awe and horror and killing people.
Mm-hmm.
And Ukraine, it would appear, I did like the memes that went around that it would appear Ukraine had a couple more cards up its sleeve. They were holding their cards a little too close to the vest for Donald's liking. But when he said they had no more, they didn't have any cards to play, it's like, oh no, they had some cards in the work, because this drone attack was not an overnight thing. I've watched a few videos now on how it was accomplished, and it was an incredible feat for the Ukrainian people to strike back and really to eliminate part of the threat that Russia holds to kill people, because that's all Russia's doing is killing people.
Right. Yeah, I and this was one that I found quite interesting. This whole thing, I just found out about it this morning that Marco Rubio has sought to bring sanctions, and they don't say who the sanctions are against. That's the thing, but it says Secretary of State Marco Rubio unveiled new sanctions on Thursday to target 4 judges on the International Criminal Court for attempting to investigate the U.S. and Israel for alleged war crimes over in that region.
I thought about this one too. If you haul a mobster into court and he puts a hit on the judge, that's illegal, right? We could agree that's not a proper thing to do. I think most people would agree that ain't right. In case you're missing it, folks, Marco Rubio is the mobster in this story. And the man's putting a hit on judges. And I mean, and we come back to one of the conservatives' most favorite tropes in the world, and that's if you're not guilty, you got nothing to hide. So what are you worried about? Give me your ID and let me run you, right? It's like they just love that idea that if you got nothing to hide. And this would appear that either we have something to, this would appear the U.S. has something to hide.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's kind of obvious when you have the president saying he wants to turn a war zone where people are suffering and dying into a resort. I mean, just think about that, right? You have the president of the United States and arguably, if you will, the most powerful country in the world that's advocating for building his own empire on the backs of people who've been killed and are now starving to death in a conflict that he's supposedly trying to help navigate a ceasefire and a peaceful resolution. Unreal.
Yeah. Orwell had it right. He just had the dates wrong.
Who was that?
Orwell.
Yeah.
I just had the wrong dates, right?
Yeah.
Instead of 84, it's 24, 25, because we are consistently being told, I believe, we are consistently being gaslit by the Trump administration. Mm-hmm. And, it's interesting because I wrote a Substack article on this last week and got some people interested in playing in the idea. We have gotten to a point where social media of various forms, whatever platform it might be, social media is the primary way people communicate. Just look at what's going on with Musk and Trump. Neither of them are getting it's a big deal that they're going to people are trying to get the two of them on a phone call today. Right? So there'll be all kinds of great bullshit news this afternoon after the two of them talk, and one of them will put something out on X and the other one will put something out on Truth Social, and the one of them they'll go back and forth, because when you have two men that each own their own net platform, they're just going to bicker and they're going to go back and forth. But then we're going to report that as news when nothing really happened. And regardless of what they say, they have so convinced their base, their individual base, that they couldn't be wrong, right? Donald Trump couldn't ever be wrong about anything. Man backpedals and hell, how many people did you fire? Those are all because you were wrong. You hired them and then you had to fire them because you were wrong, right? The man will never admit. But they go back and forth, and we're at a point where nobody will believe anything anybody else says. So there is no discourse on social media. Mm-hmm. My Substack was about the fact that I slipped and I got into an argument on social media with someone, right? I stayed up too late arguing with someone that used to be, in my opinion, New Thought, and now is barely thinking, let alone having a new thought. Barely thinking, not having a new thought at all. And having this argument, and I came to that awakening that they don't give a shit. They don't care. They're not there to try to have a conversation. They're not there to to consider anything. They're not there to look at anything critically or have any sort of conversation about anything. They just want to shout their shit and be right.
Well,
and now we have Trump and Elon doing exactly that to each other.
Yeah, and see, when I think of New Thought, Ancient Wisdom, and I look at what's taking place to now, that would be, all of this would be something I'd throw out with the bathwater.
Right.
Because if I continue to bathe in that, cleanliness is going to be the furthest thing that happens, right? And given, I mean, when we look around the globe, right, we have fires in Canada again that are now affecting the air quality of the United States again, right? They showed models of that stuff going all the way over to Europe, right? Hurricane season has just started again. So now, I mean, we have so many things to focus positive energy and ancient wisdom toward than to get caught up and bogged down in the muck and the mire of you know, people dramatizing their lives and their toys. And okay, how long can that be news? Or better yet, is that news in the first place? And when we got other fish to fry, so to speak, throw another metaphor in there, that are more important, that are more far-reaching.
Yeah.
And we as a populace got to wake up.
Yes. Yes. You know, I feel like, and I want to make sure that we don't neglect to bring the attack on Pride Month into all of this as well. Because to me, that's another big point of it all, is people are afraid, I believe, to speak up for Pride.
Oh yeah.
Now there's always been, somewhat of a pushback. So I've been trying to take that. I've been trying to consider more often in my writing, in my contemplation, is where the pushback, where that other side of the story, that perspective that is unlike my own. So I can understand if some people feel that Pride has been over commercialized, shoved down their throat, shoved in their face. And just as much as I don't like seeing the Confederate flag shoved in my face, I can appreciate they may not like seeing a rainbow flag shoved in their face. The difference, however, for me always comes back to there's been more people injured by the Confederate flag than have ever been injured by a rainbow flag. One side of this argument is about affirming people and affirming life. And one side of this argument is about oppressing life and oppressing people's free expression and their right to be who they are and their right to be free and unencumbered in their travels. And this pushback against Pride is exactly why we need Pride. Right? And as a cisgendered middle-aged white guy, I check all the boxes of privilege and oppression. Right? I am the poster boy for all that. And so especially white folk, we got to stop being bigots and start standing up and saying, whoa, wait a minute. Right. But I get it. what happens to my business if I hang a flag these days? And which is truthfully what some may have felt for quite a long time about what happens if I put a fish on the side of my truck, right? I think, and they're all virtue signals. They're all right. That's so. Can we do away with the virtue signaling and still honor people's right to be who they are?
You know, I think we still have too many people, I believe, on various issues across this spectrum that are in intolerant mode as opposed to acceptance and embracing mode, right? Because I tolerate you doesn't mean I support you, I like you, I want you, or any of that. It just means in a lot of ways, I am going to ignore you.
Right.
And so we still need to advocate, educate, and continue to highlight that this is one planet. We're not living on separate planets here when we start doing these divisive things and destroying people, place, planet, and all. And if there was any idea of slipping away to Mars and leaving Earth with all the muck and the mire, I think Elon might have something to say about that. And so we need to make the best of what we have in our hand. A bird in the hand is better than two in the bush.
Right.
Right. And I may set a situation to grab those two, but I need to make sure I take care of what I got in my hand right now. And we are not doing that on all fronts. And so the news continues to support that, not coming together in unity. It keeps this divisive separation, demeaning, and people, are falling into it. And as you mentioned earlier, social media is not helping.
Right. For the most part, I think you're right. And it's interesting as well that I see so many people, and I think this is actually on both sides. Now it's hard to distinguish because, right, so many of the hard conservatives fled certain platforms like Facebook, and those that have stayed are some of the very vocal few, it seems. Now, again, it might just be because Facebook doesn't show me the extremes anymore. They barely show me the people I agree with anymore. But even the people I agree with seem to be a dwindling population. Even the people that I think alike seem to be a dwindling population on those on certain platforms because of because each of these platforms is attempting it's coming back to this this almighty dollar thing. They're more concerned with the advertisers and the income than they are with fostering actual connection. And so it has become more and more difficult to foster real connection with people. And we have to find alternative ways to do that.
Yeah. I mean, as I see it, we have to begin to step into tomorrow as a brighter future, not as a dystopic world. And let's not, glamorize this whole idea of it's either a dystopic world or a utopic world. It is an evolving world,
right,
that is based on harmony and working through the evolution of things, the growth of things, the adjusting to new environment things. And we may hit a moment of dystopic, maybe now, I don't know. And but we don't want to stay there, and then we don't want to get over in some utopic place and stay there. We have to find that balance, that as the ancient Egyptians would say, we have to find that principle of ma'at, truth, balance, reciprocity, justice, where things are operating from that standpoint. And yes, it'll sway, but there's principles and laws and compassion and things to keep it in a trajectory that promotes life. We always say here, life is prime. Everything else is secondary. Because if there's no life, there's nothing else.
If all we're trying to do is create a utopic city or society, or however we want to phrase it, then I think we're doing human evolution a disservice.
Mm-hmm.
We know this, and I want to be really clear, because folks, you're if you're reading my Substack, if you're paying attention to what we're talking about, we do talk about intentional community, and we do talk about, as Valerie Kaur does, creating islands of peace, and we do talk about creating environments where this new thought philosophy and way of life can foster and flourish, but it never ends there. It has to move out into the rest of our world. We cannot sit on a mountaintop and just expect the world to change around us. We have to be able to be a part of the progress and the evolution. And just as you're saying, Z, there are going to be some rocky roads. There's going to be some tough nights. The Ukrainian people are experiencing a version of this right now. I pray that America remains peaceful for the most part in our conversations, in our definition, and in our conversations. There's always going to be outliers. There's always going to be the people that, as we saw in Boulder here this week, folks, anytime anything happens in Boulder, it's only just right up the street, really, from us. It's not even 30 minutes from where I'm sitting to where this act of terrorism happened this past week. And anytime something happens, it's not just, it's the interruption of, okay, I got to call my friends. I got to call, make sure some of my people weren't there. But there's always going to be some of those that take it to the violent extreme. Mm-hmm. And regardless of how we label it, right? Is this man protesting a war? Is he truly anti-Semitic? Or is that just a really cool term to use, again, when anything happens with someone of Jewish belief, right? And the Trump administration wanted to deport his entire family immediately. Like, whoa, we need to find out what happened here. This is our best opportunity to figure out what really happened here. His wife probably knows more than anybody. But we want to cast the violence as the everyday, because that's what the media leads with, right? So-and-so is yelling at so-and-so. So-and-so bombed so-and-so. This person created this terrorist act. This terrorist group created this terrorist act. And I do want to see more of the reminders that we are building towards not a utopian, but a better place, let's say. Mm-hmm. And we talk about it here on New Thought Media Network all the time, folks, right? That's what we're attempting to do in the media world, is provide the resources and the programming and the radio station and our Substack platform and all the places where we're showing up. The attempt is to provide something that reminds us that deeply we are one. Mm-hmm. That we really are all in this together, And I want both Palestinian and Jewish people to live in peace, not just one or the other. I want both Russian and Ukrainian people to live in peace, but I want people to live is the beginning of that statement. And we got to support people living if we expect to experience true peace on this planet.
Right. And I think one of the key things to remember is that, as you indicated, this is an evolving place. Me and my wife had a conversation about the evolution of man and the gallbladder the other day. Because although the gallbladder can be removed from the body, and if it's causing problems, it was originally created for something. It was not idly put there. Now, we may have evolved to a place to where the functionality of that organ may be subterfuged in other places now, right? But there was an original purpose and intent for the gallbladder. And now we have evolved, it seems, as human beings to have it or not. It's the same thing with life. We are evolving, and there are certain things and behaviors that are not conducive to the whole that sometimes we may have to have a little surgery to take it out to preserve the life, because that life is the primary thing. And we are not doing that with some of these behaviors and ideologies and actions that are taking place in our society and in our globe. It's just, my new scripture, I've said it before, is the 14 billion year old scripture called the universe. That should be the science book, the history book, the news story. I should be able to make some comparisons and inferences from that to how we should tell the news, how we should inform people about things, how we should decide, is it time to put this thing aside?
Yeah.
But we don't. We think we bought into that man is the crown of creation, and so we can control and dictate and destroy as we see fit. And that's not the case.
Reverend. Hey, you brought up something that I wanted to kind of surprise you with. And so here we are. I'm glad to know that after almost 30 years of marriage, you and your wife are still talking. I'm not sure if I want to get to the point where the main topic of conversation is the gallbladder, but hey, you guys do you. But we do want to celebrate that Reverend Elzia and his darling wife are celebrating on Monday, I believe it is, 30 years of marriage and 2 lovely kids who are now out of the house. So you two have some freedom again. And but 30 years, brother, congratulations. And please pass our love along to your beautiful wife.
I will do it. I will do it. Yeah, you know, you talk about evolution, boy, any relationship is a revolution, but 30 years is a I don't know, that may be a transformation or something else. I don't know.
Exactly.
But we have to look at it and as a metaphor for life of how do you stay in a relationship with ups and downs, lefts and rights, but still be committed if it's not destroying each other. How do you stay that course?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Our dear friend Linda's chiming in exactly. And Linda said earlier, the thought that comes to me is that as new thought thinkers, we must attend to where we place our thoughts and attention. Exactly. And to me, it is sort of a both and. Because the mainstream media will dwell on these issues and will create a hoopla 24/7 around things. We take a little bit more balanced approach here. We do this for half an hour, 40 minutes on one day a week. where and it doesn't mean we're not aware of, and it doesn't mean we're not paying attention to things throughout the week. It just means that we don't spend all of our time there.
Yeah.
We spend time celebrating our friends and our family and the milestones in their lives. We spend time in spiritual practice. We spend time reading good books and reading, spiritual stuff. And we spend time in conversation and contemplation with each other. We spend time in churches and spiritual centers having these shared experiences so that we don't get overloaded, so that it doesn't become all consuming, so it isn't the only thing going on in our lives. And what I love is we don't lead with the ugly. We don't lead with, oh my God, did you hear what he said? We lead with, hey, how are you today? How's the family? How are the kids? Where's your ministry? What's going on? What's up? And if those things are influencing how we live our lives, okay, then we discuss them, we deal with them, but we don't let these things live our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we as a proclamation, I would stand pat on you either living or you're not, right? And if I'm living, that means I'm taking things in, processing them, and releasing what doesn't serve and moving forward. And that's how I think,
right,
in this day and age, we are most, definitely in a transformative period of life, right?
Yep.
You look at the technology, you look at human behavior, you look at the environment. No matter where you look, we see that there is an evolutionary, and in a lot of cases, revolutionary type of activities happening right now.
Yep.
And it is incumbent upon those who have eyes and ears to see and hear, to raise the bell, to sound the alarm, to raise the flag that says, pay attention, become aware. If the tornado is coming, sound the alarm so people can take cover, not hide, take cover until it goes by, and then you rebuild in a better way, in a stronger way. Because tornadoes is a great example of what's happening. Tornadoes, you can see the conditions for the tornado, but you don't know if it's going to happen or not. And it happens in an instant. It comes in, it causes havoc or not. Sometimes they come through and they do minimal damage. You have no idea how they're going to respond. We have to begin to be resilient, like a lot of our communities across this country have had to be with this rage of tornadoes that happened in this last 2-3 months.
Yep.
And still happening.
Yep. We're going to run out of time here, folks, but I love that you bring this forward, because I've been watching the storm chasers online, and all the storm chasers are now live streaming, and you can watch 3 or 4 different channels as they chase these different storms. But the thing that I'm most impressed with is the commentators, the people. They're constantly reminding people, if you are in the path of this storm, here's where we think it's going in real time, get yourself to your safe space. Mm-hmm. And just as Elzia is talking about, it ain't going to last forever. So no matter who you are, if you're not sure if a storm appears to be coming your way, get yourself to your safe space. And if that means calling a minister or a practitioner, call one of us. If that means turning off of Facebook for 30 days or something to that effect, do it, right? Get yourself to your safe space. Let the storm pass, because this too shall pass. And when the sun comes back out, we'll come back out and we'll get back out there and rebuild. Some are going to go walk right into the middle of that storm. Some people are going to drive right into the middle of that storm to tell you what it's like. and to get more research on how we can better forecast these types of storms. But for most of us, be safe.
Yes.
And join us again next week. Or join us throughout the day, because we do have a full day of programming. All of our normal morning programs. Get Rich 101 is already on. The morning prayers, Rev Melissa with the morning sip. Our Spanish language prayers at 9:30. Our featured programs today, the High Vibe Hour with Rev Skip and Cynthia Breeze at 11 a.m. Just One You with Reverend Barbara Jean is at 1 o'clock. Divine Science Everywhere at 2 o'clock. And the good news is back at 5, where we don't look at all this politics stuff. We look at the good stuff going on, as well as Reverend Michael Mangus with our fireside chat at 6 o'clock Mountain Time. It's a full night here on the New Thought Media Network. Join us throughout the night. Oh, and remember, there's a program that actually broadcasts through us. We don't talk about it a lot. It's a music show on Friday nights at 7. It's called Common Grounds, and it is broadcast in partnership with the Center for Spiritual Living Rio Grande in CSL Rio Grande in Albuquerque. So we're going to do some more promotions for that program coming up soon, so check that out as well. Z, I want to thank you for being here this morning with me. Everyone else that's watching, we've gone longer than we normally do. We got to be careful. We're going to start. This is going to be an hour-long program before we know it. We'll be back again next Friday. But until then, we want to wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends. Until next time, peace and blessings.